Hey guys, I have my friend 𝗁𝗲𝗃 here from your expert guest. And of course, there's two sides of podcasting, right? You're either hosting a show or you're guesting, or hopefully even doing both. And so many people get asked, how do I get on shows? And of course, a guest booking service like Julie's is a key partner in that strategy of your business. So thanks for joining, Julie.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, Lindsay.
So why
Excited
don't we
for our chat
frame the
today.
converse? Yeah. And then because a lot of people like, do I really need one? You always get that question, right? But first I want to frame the conversation and like, why do we want to be a guest on shows? Because some people do think, oh, I need to host a show. I need to host a show. We're
hmm
really, and I've even told clients this, depending on your goals, like you probably want to consider guesting instead for now. So what would your answer be for that?
Yes. There are a number of reasons why being a guest on a podcast is such a great visibility tool. And like you mentioned, for some people that are thinking about hosting a podcast, it is a great way to test the medium to see if it's a right fit for you. Because
Yeah.
as you know, as a podcast host, there's a lot of time and energy and money that goes into consistently producing episodes every week.
Yeah.
And so by being a guest, you get to test how you like being in this medium and having conversations with other podcast hosts. Does that feel good to you? For some people, they love it. It is
Yeah.
definitely a push for them to start their own podcast. We've had a number of clients that have gone through the process of guesting first for about a year, and then they go and
Mm.
start their own podcast. And then for other people, guesting is a great way to stay visible without spending hours on social media.
Yeah.
That's something that we find is really common with a lot of our clients is they don't love being online all the time, being in Facebook groups and figuring out what they're going to post on LinkedIn and Instagram. So by being a guest, just having a conversation with another human being, you're building a great relationship.
Yeah.
Then you have the benefit of having all of those people who listen to that podcast. Now they know about you, whereas they might not have before. So great visibility tool. I love it for the relationship
Me
and the
too.
networking piece. That is honestly one of my favorite pieces and some of our clients' favorite pieces of guesting, because
Mhm.
every time you interview, you get to add a new connection to your professional network. And in many cases, those people can be referral partners for
Mhm.
you. I've seen this with many of the interviews that I've gone on. We go on to refer each other business. And so think about the time you save versus going to a networking meeting. Remember
Oh
when we all
yeah.
used to do that? You get into
Yeah.
your car, you drive 30 minutes, and then you'd show
Get your
up
pile of
for an
business
awkward,
cards.
yeah, an awkward
Ew.
hour-long, chat or maybe longer, and then you drive home. And so for me, like that would be half a day. And you may or may not meet some people that would be great referral partners
No.
for you. So I think the podcast guesting is a great way to connect with other people and just build relationships, because that's really at the heart of all of our businesses. They say your net worth is your network.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And it's funny, when I started out, my goal was to just get more exposure for my business, get my name out
Mm-hmm.
there,
Mm-hmm.
exponentially, because you can reach so many more people faster
Mm-hmm.
through guesting on podcasts. And what I totally didn't consider was that relationship part and even just the fun of it, like meeting cool people on the other side of the world and like
Mm-hmm.
just finding those connection pieces that you have in common. And there's
Mm-hmm.
like some that are on the other side of the world that I'm like still friends with, and we chat on Facebook and we've like collaborated on things together. And yeah, it was such a surprise.
Yeah, the human component of it, I think, gets overlooked sometimes by people that tend to be more transactional about it. But like just the other day, we had one of our clients who is a licensed therapist. And one of the shows that we booked her on is hosted by a former therapist. And so just that piece of when we made the connection of, oh, you two will have fun chatting about the
Yeah.
therapy space. It's nice to be able to pull those different pieces of your life into that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when people think of like pitching to get on a podcast, people are just like, ugh. Like it just feels like so daunting. And it's like, those pitch emails, I think I got like 3 yesterday. One of them was good. 2 of them were horrible. So what are besides emailing people and asking, what are different ways that you can get booked on shows?
That's such a great question. And I love that you call out the fact that it is really daunting. I come from a background of sales. And so emailing to make a connection, it really is second nature to me. But I know for so many people, it's a huge mindset block. So there's a lot of different ways that you can position yourself to be a guest on shows. So first is your network. So just letting people know that you are utilizing podcast guesting as a strategy. Here's what I can talk about. Here's the types of shows that I'd be a good fit for. A simple email to the people who already know you. They want to support you. They just need to be asked. So that's always where I tell people to start with your network. You can do simple things by posting on LinkedIn or whatever platform you're most active on. Just let people know, hey, I'm looking to be a guest on shows. Here's what I can talk about. Here's the type of shows. Because by being specific about what you're looking for, it then helps people's brains register like, oh, I know somebody who's a host of a show that would be great for you. So you could also utilize your team to have you be a guest on shows. So whether you have a virtual assistant or you have somebody who is in a marketing role on your team, those are resources that you can utilize. The pros being you're already paying them, they're already working in your business. Hopefully they have more of a familiarity with you. The cons, I would say, is there is a nuance to pitching to get on a show. And sometimes those team members don't have that training, or sometimes people think VA, oh, they can do anything. That's not the case.
It's a
VAs
skill,
are very
the
specialized.
communication part of it, for sure. You don't want it to look like a copy and paste. You want it to look like that person actually listened to your podcast and thought about the strategy and why they're a fit. You can tell, like, as soon as I get an email, I'm like, okay, you have listened to the show.
Yeah, we just had a new client start working with us, who she had utilized her VA to pitch her to shows. And so she shared the list of shows that they had pitched, and most of them being huge shows that either pay to guest on, or they don't take unsolicited pitches, but they wouldn't have known that. But she got 0 response to all of those outreaches. And so that's the downside of leveraging a VA or somebody who's more of a generalist. Another resource, and I love this one for people that are just starting to dip their toe in the water in the guesting space, is there's a number of online resources that are matchmakers between hosts that are looking for guests and guests that want to be on shows. There's podcastguest.com, there's matchmaker.fm. One that I really like is the Podcast Guest Collaborative. They have
that one.
Oh, it's great. They have a Facebook group that is super active. And then they also have a membership that's relatively low cost. I want to say it's $15 a month. Full disclosure, I'm an affiliate of theirs, but I have tried out some of the other platforms just to understand how they work and who they might be good for. I will say that across the board, a lot of those podcast matchmaking sites are more heavily weighted towards guests that want to be on shows, meaning that there's a lot more of those folks than there are hosts that are looking for guests. And the hosts that tend to join those platforms tend to be newer shows or shows that are pre-launch. And as you know, that pod fade is a real thing. So they tend to attract more of those kind of newbie-ish podcasters that don't have those really established shows.
A great point, which I never really thought about before. Yeah, that's a really
In the
great point.
podcast collaborative group, I have noticed that there tend to be more shows that are established, and even, top shows in the top 10 or 5% that occasionally will post looking for guests. So those are just a handful of some of the resources that are out there. So pros being that, it's a great way to just take yourself out of it and let it happen. On the flip side, and I will say, I guess it's good for more newbie podcast guests, people that are just getting started.
But there is still a lot of time in like researching and looking at the profiles, and like, it's still very time consuming. And some of the search features are a little bit tricky, but I've had a couple of good matches. And then on the flip side, it's been like, I don't have time to like do all the research and stuff like that.
So you're on some of them then as a host.
I was curious and what have you. Again, like you, right? I want to see what they're about, and I love looking at different podcast resources, and like, I get asked about stuff all the time. So can I refer one or the other? And it's interesting to see.
Yeah, just like anything, you have to be an active participant, and then there's still administrative stuff that needs to be done. Let's say you are selected as a guest for a show, you still usually have to fill out the application and the information. And so there's all of those pieces that go into it. But that's a great place to start. Let's see, what else? Other ways to get booked. Oh, there's a great community called Podwise, the Podwise Co-op by Angie Trueblood. I like that because it's a collaborative of podcast hosts and people that want to guest. I think they have regular calls, there's regular trainings, and just by being in community with other people, you're going to build relationships. And through those relationships, I think are where some of the best podcast guesting connections happen. So I think that's a great one. And then obviously there's guest booking agencies like Your Expert Guest or a number of the other ones that are out there. Pros being that we're specialists, we're really designed to provide that outcome for the guest, to make it easy for them. So all they have to do is show up and have the interview. Cons, exactly. But cons, you're typically paying for that service and that expertise.
So why would someone I've got all these different options. What are the benefits of hiring a booking service or a booking agency?
So really it comes down to when you're looking to achieve your goals, are you more inclined to want to invest your time, which means probably not a good fit for you. Maybe you'd be better suited towards one of the other options, or are you willing to invest money in reaching your end goal? So I think that people that tend to work with us are established business owners. They're usually 6 or 7 figure business owners. They're very clear on why they want to be a guest on podcasts. It's not just for the sake of, hey, I want to be a guest on a podcast, but they don't know the real why. Is it SEO? Is it visibility? Do they have a new book they're launching? Do they have a new course they're promoting? So those are some of the reasons that we find we work really well with our clients, is if they have a clear why. So we can just help them accomplish their goals faster and get them on really great quality shows, and also protect their reputation because we are presenting them in a way that aligns with their professional brand. So sometimes if you are having your VA do the outreach for you, or you're hiring somebody that's not as specialized, they're just sending copy and paste kind of emails that really degrade the quality of your brand.
And I have to say, when I get emails from like an assistant of someone versus when I get an email from a guest booking service, I am more likely to pay attention and read it because I know that they've done the research. I know that that's what they do. Right. And it's like just the way it's crafted and what have you. I am more likely to fully read it and give it my attention. I do answer everybody, but Yeah.
That's
I'm like,
nice of
okay,
you.
good. It's a guest booking service. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that the piece of the guest booking services, for the most part, are thinking with your listeners in mind.
Mm.
So they're thinking about how can this guest provide value to your listeners? Like, what
Yeah.
are the listeners going to get out of it? And why is this guest so uniquely positioned to serve them? At least that's the approach that we take.
That makes sense. I'm going to ask you another question in a minute, but first I want to share my favorite tool because it's tool time, as they say.
I love
I
learning
know
about new
people
tools.
always get asked about my tools. So my favorite tool that we use at smoothbusinesspodcasting.com week in, week out is repurpose.io. Don't know if you use that, Julie, or not. So we create the Instagram videos of our podcast episodes and the short 60-minute, 60-second video clips from the episodes with captions. And I love the fact that they're branded and it makes leveraging my podcast so much easier. So of course, head to smoothbusinessgrowth.com/repurpose and see how truly easy it is. And next, Julie, because you're my guinea pig, I'm weaving a pun in every episode moving forward because we need to have more laughs. All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Bring it on.
All right. What do you call a fish without an eye?
I don't know. I love it.
I love
That's
puns.
A good dad joke.
I know.
Good
They're the best.
And repurpose.io. I had not heard of that before.
Ooh, they're good. I interviewed Hanny Moore actually on the show. It was a good episode.
Cool.
All right. So the fun time's over. So we'll continue on with our chat about guest booking. So how do you I have 3 questions in my head that are all ramming together. Yeah. What do you look for with a guest booking agency? Like, are there questions that you should ask or oh, I need to make sure that they do this, this, and this?
Yes. So there's a number of things I think that you should look for. Number one is I always suggest that you ask about their process. So ask questions about how do you find the shows that would be a good fit for me? Ask about their strategy. So that's one thing that we're really well versed in is we spend a lot of time on the front end with new clients to understand their business and understand what their goals are, who are their top clients that they serve, because then that plays into our strategy about how we go find the right shows for them to reach the people that they need to talk to. So asking questions about their strategy, their onboarding process, how long will it be before they start appearing on shows? A big one is how do you prepare me for shows? So one thing that we do is provide a guest a backgrounder for each podcast to our clients that lets them know about the show, reminding them what they'll be talking about, if there's any special format that the show follows, any special questions that the host will have for them. So just anything to help them be prepared for the show. Also, conversely, we take care of all the administrative details for getting their information to the host so that the guest doesn't have to do that. But not all agencies handle that. No. So that would be a good question. Just find out, what deliverables are you getting for what you're paying for? So that's a big one. I would definitely ask to see a sample pitch. So show me how you pitch
I
one
would
of
never
your
thought
clients.
to ask for that.
Oh yeah, because then that shows you, are they just sending out a one sheet with no context of why you'd be a great guest? Or are they positioning you in a way that really shows how you're providing value? So I'd ask to see a sample pitch. And then I, just like any other kind of bigger service that you're hiring in your business, ask for referrals. So I would ask to talk to a couple of current and past clients.
Nice.
And check out the reviews. Like if they have Google reviews or reviews on LinkedIn, what are people saying about their experience working with them?
That is so true. It's like just those things that you're like, oh yeah, why didn't I think to do that before?
Yes.
It's so obvious once you say it, but you totally don't think of it in the moment.
Just like when you're getting your house painted, it's a big investment. You get three bids and you may not go with the cheapest. You might go with the most expensive because they're using the best quality paint and it's going to last a long time and they're insured and all of those things. So just do your due diligence when you're doing your evaluations on who you're going to hire.
That's the great tips. And so how do you match people up between guest and host? Like, I know obviously it's not like you put them in a bingo ball and just like mix them up and hope for the best. There's strategy involved. So what are some of the criterias in your decision making?
It really depends on the client. So for instance, we have a client who has been with us for year and a half, I want to say. She's got a show that ranks in the top 3% of all podcasts. And so for her, and she uses podcast guesting as an ongoing marketing strategy. It brings a lot of new business to her, but she wants to be on shows where she's kind of matching her audience size. So we're looking at shows that are also in the top 3% that contain her ideal clients, which are coaches, consultants, marketers. So those are the types of shows that we're looking to get her on. We have another client who is very new to podcast guesting. And so the initial strategy for him is really to kind of build up his inventory of shows that he's been on while at the same time reaching his ideal client. So we're looking at shows that may be a lot newer, still established, still have more than 20 episodes, but are open to having somebody that doesn't have a ton of experience being a podcast guest. So it really varies by each client. We had another client who was a high net worth divorce attorney. So a divorce attorney to a lot of celebrities. And he wanted to use podcast guesting to drive referrals. So, we were booking him on podcasts that were hosted by other attorneys. So it really just kind of comes down to the client, what's their goal, who's their audience, and what's going to be the right fit based on a number of different factors that play into their whole strategy.
Yeah, that's perfect. And you were saying like you do some of the back end work before you even start pitching. It's like there's so much that you need to know, like their business, their superpowers, and like really understanding who their avatar and who their ideal client is, because there's so like you have to be so intentional. You don't want to be on a show for the sake of being on a show. You want to get in front of the right people.
Yeah. You either want to get in front of the right people, and oftentimes the people listening to the show are very similar to the host. And so again, that host has the power to be an amazing referral partner for you.
Yeah.
So just looking for similarities that are a point of connection between the host and the guest is a big part of what we do. And I've been a matchmaker since I was a little kid. So this just comes naturally to me. It's a lot of fun. And for the people on our team too, they're just amazing. I'm so pleased. We have a Slack channel called Wins, and every day that channel is just blowing up with, I booked this guest on this podcast, and it's really neat to see like how great they are at it.
That's awesome. And it makes you feel good, right? Especially when a client is like, ooh, that's a great match. I'm excited about being on that show. Or like, what other success stories do you have? I'm sure you have a ton. We were just talking before the show that I was on a show a couple of weeks ago, and literally 2 days after the show went live, I had someone like call to be a client, and I was like, yay, that's an instant win.
Yeah, we have a ton of those. I would say that, like, I just got an email from one of our clients last week. She's like, oh my gosh, that show that you booked me on was a perfect fit. I booked a discovery call right away from it.
Perfect.
I had another one who, this is kind of a fun story. She was on a show who was hosted by, I'm going to say it was a networking kind of show. So he runs a networking organization. He had our client on who was a sales coach. Because he's a natural networker, he's thinking about, who else could she meet? And she had mentioned who her favorite author was. It's like, I know him. And so he connected the two of them. She was able to have a conversation with him. She was able to invite him onto her podcast.
Wow.
They've since had other conversations about how they could work together. So it's just amazing, the little things that can happen from these interviews that can go to create amazing things.
I love that.
Yeah. Do you want me to go on? I mean, I feel like,
yeah, because they're cool to know. I love these stories.
Another one of our clients, let's see, she has a kind of money stories type, money mindset type of podcast. And she has met a number of referral partners for her business. So referral partners for new clients that then the host receives an affiliate payment whenever they receive new clients. And then, it's their number one strategy for gaining new clients is by her going on other people's podcasts. As a host, it's also a great way to find guests for your own podcast. So by guesting, you're meeting a bunch of other people that could be great guests for your show. And then you could have podcast swaps. Yeah. So the options are kind of endless for what can happen because of podcast interviews and guesting. And for me personally, for our brand, we are now, I want to say, over $100,000 in terms of revenue that has come from a direct result of podcast guesting. Sweet. So it's definitely a huge driver for us.
Love it. I love hearing all those stories.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to touch upon is for anyone that's listening, like, how do you know when you're ready to work with a guest booking agency? Like, is there anything that you need to have done or assets before you even think about it?
Yeah, I think the big piece is you're already in that mindset of outsourcing the things that are maybe not your sweet spot or things that you just don't want to be doing, or you're really focused on freeing up your time so that you can work in your zone of genius, which is, delivering whatever products or service or your thought leadership that you have. So it kind of goes back to that. If you want to reach your goals, do you want to invest the time or do you want to invest the money? So that, I would say, is the number one, is recognizing that you don't want to be doing all the things in your business anymore. And you want to outsource that marketing strategy piece to a trusted partner. Other things is perhaps you've been a guest already on a show and you've seen the ROI from it. So you know what it can do for your business. That's also a great indicator that it may be time for you to hire an agency who is process and really well-versed and can speed up the process for you.
I love that. And I know you've got some great resources on your website. One of them is a podcast guest checklist. So I'd love to share that with the listeners if you can tell us about it and where to find it.
That would be awesome. Yeah. So as you mentioned, there are things that you should be doing before, during, and after a show, really to maximize your guest interview. So we put together a podcast guest checklist to be the best guest ever. And you can grab that at our website at yourexpertguest.com/checklist.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And of course, go to yourexpertguest.com and and talk to you about getting them on shows and get some higher ROI. I love both guesting and hosting. I think they both absolutely have a huge amount of value, and especially people that are, need that exposure, need to grow their e-list. It's just, it checks off so many boxes. It's like you get so much bang for your buck. It's like the best thing ever. I love it.
It really is. I mean, I know that there's a lot of professional speakers who guest as well. And again, usually the ROI, because you're not traveling somewhere, you're not paying for an airplane ticket and a hotel room, and then your time away from the office, you're showing up, you're having a great conversation, usually from your own home or your studio or your office, and you're done.
I know.
And you're reaching a lot more people than if you're at a speaking event. So,
and it opens up so many doors, right? Like I've been invited on like summits or do a giveaway or speak on actual stage or virtual stage. It's like, it just opens up so many doors.
It's so true. It's so true. It really is. I feel lucky to be in this industry and grateful that I get to meet amazing people like you. It's a ton of fun.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me, Julie. And thanks for being my guinea pig with my tool time and my pun.
I love it. I love it. I hope you keep it going.
All right. I'll try. I will do it. All right. Have a good one.
Thank you. Thanks, Lindsay.